The flashing red lights cut through the thick night fog like knives. The sound of sirens echoed endlessly, bouncing off the walls of the dark tunnel that had just swallowed the sleek black car seconds before disaster struck. Reporters, fans, and onlookers stood frozen in disbelief as the name Wang Yibo rolled off every tongue, spreading like wildfire through the media circuits and fan groups across the world. Wang Yibo, the idol, actor, racer, and performer whose every move had become a spectacle, had been in a devastating car accident. But behind the scenes, a chilling question began to ripple through the entertainment world like a whisper in a storm. Was his manager the cause of the crash? The question hung in the air like smoke, growing thicker each hour as new details surfaced. The night of the accident had started like any other for the superstar. Yibo had wrapped up a long day of filming, his energy drained, his eyes heavy, his focus sharp yet fading from exhaustion. He had been on set for over 12 hours, giving his all to every take, every scene, every movement. When the cameras finally stopped rolling, his manager, Chen Rui, ushered him quickly toward the waiting car, a luxury black SUV that gleamed under the streetlights. Chen Rui had been Yibo's manager for almost 4 years, smart, strategic, and fiercely protective. But recently, their relationship had begun to crack beneath invisible pressure. Rumors of disagreements, creative conflicts, and tension over Yibo's schedule had begun to surface among staff members. Some claimed that Chen Rui had become increasingly reckless with decisions, often pushing Yibo beyond his limits to meet deadlines and satisfy producers. But no one could have predicted what would happen next. The road leading out of the city was eerily quiet that night, except for the hum of the engine and the faint rustle of rain beginning to fall. Yibo sat in the back seat, half asleep, his phone resting beside him. Chen Rui was in the passenger seat, arguing softly with the driver about taking a different route, one that was faster, but riskier, especially in the rain. "Let's take the tunnel," Chen Rui insisted. "We'll beat traffic and be at the hotel in 10 minutes. The driver hesitated, glancing in the mirror at Yibo's reflection. "So, the roads are slick tonight. That path. Just do it," Chen Rui snapped. Reluctantly, the driver turned the wheel toward the narrow tunnel road that curved like a snake through the hills. What none of them realized was that the tunnel's drainage system had malfunctioned due to the storm. Puddles had formed into hidden traps, and visibility had dropped dangerously low. As the SUV entered the tunnel, everything seemed fine, until the tires hit a patch of water, and the car began to slide. In that instant, chaos exploded. The sound of metal scraping concrete filled the tunnel as the car spun violently, headlights flickering like flashes of lightning. Yibo jolted awake, his body thrown sideways as the world turned into a blur of motion and panic. The driver tried to regain control, shouting, "Brakes! Brakes!" but it was too late. The SUV slammed into the side barrier with a bone-crunching impact, spinning once more before coming to a dead stop. Smoke began to rise from the hood. The windshield cracked in a spiderweb pattern. For a moment, there was only silence, heavy, deafening silence. Then came the sound of Yibo's voice, weak but alive. "Chen, are you okay?" But Chen Rui didn't answer. Minutes later, rescue teams rushed into the tunnel, cutting through the wreckage. Yibo was pulled out with visible bruises and a deep gash on his leg, but alive. The driver was in shock, muttering incoherently about orders and the wrong turn. Chen Rui, however, had sustained severe injuries and was rushed to the hospital in critical condition. As news of the accident spread, social media exploded. Fans prayed, cried, and flooded every platform with messages of hope. But others began asking the unthinkable. Why had they taken that route? Within hours, investigative journalists began digging. Traffic surveillance footage revealed that the SUV had been speeding moments before the crash, despite the rain. The black box data later confirmed it. Chen Rui had insisted the driver push the limits, even as warnings blared from the vehicle's system. That one decision, to shave off 10 minutes from the drive, had changed everything. Days later, as Wang Yibo lay recovering in a private hospital suite, the truth began to unravel. Close associates spoke out anonymously. One production assistant claimed she had overheard a heated argument between Yibo and Chen Rui earlier that day. She wanted him to attend another event right after filming, the assistant said. But Yibo refused. He was exhausted. Chen said he had no choice. It was one of the biggest sponsorship deals of the year. The words struck like lightning. Was the pressure of fame and schedule worth risking everything for? Yibo's fans refused to believe Chen Rui could intentionally harm him, but the evidence pointed toward negligence. Industry insiders whispered that Chen's ambition had blinded her judgment, turning her into a ticking time bomb of control and desperation. A week later, a haunting scene unfolded outside the hospital. Yibo, still on crutches, looked out the window as Chen Rui's condition worsened. Reporters waited outside, cameras ready, while fans lit candles in silent vigils. Inside, the atmosphere was thick with tension. One of Yibo's closest friends visited him, bringing quiet support. "You have to know none of this is your fault," the friend said softly. "She made a mistake, not you." But Yibo's expression was unreadable. He had built his career on loyalty. He never forgot the people who stood beside him through the storm. To him, Chen Rui wasn't just a manager. She was part of his journey, part of his story. Still, he couldn't ignore the haunting replay of that night in his mind. The sharp tone in her voice, the urgency, the insistence. The crash wasn't just an accident of fate. It was a result of choices, of decisions made in haste. 2 weeks after the incident, the investigation report was released to the public. The findings were clear. The accident was caused by excessive speed and poor decision-making by the management team. Though it was officially deemed unintentional negligence, public outrage was unstoppable. Hashtags like #JusticeForYibo and #ManagerMistake trended globally. Fans demanded accountability, and media outlets dissected every detail of the event. The entertainment company had no choice but to act. They quietly terminated Chen Rui's position while issuing a public statement promising better safety protocols for all their artists. But the most shocking moment came when Wang Yibo finally broke his silence. Appearing live in a short video, he spoke with calm determination. "I've always believed in hard work and responsibility. Sometimes the people closest to us make choices that hurt us, even if they never meant to. I only hope this becomes a lesson, for me, for my team, and for everyone who believes in the dream we share." His words were heartfelt, yet filled with quiet pain. The entertainment world buzzed for weeks. Some sympathized with Chen Rui, saying she had cracked under pressure from the company and the endless demands of the industry. Others called her reckless and irresponsible, saying her decisions could have cost the world one of its most beloved stars. As for Wang Yibo, the accident changed him. Friends described him as more reserved, more reflective. He started personally overseeing his travel schedules, taking breaks when necessary, and publicly advocating for better treatment of artists behind the scenes. But the scars, both physical and emotional, remained. One night, months after the incident, Yibo was spotted visiting the old tunnel where the crash had happened. He stood silently by the newly installed safety barriers, the cool night air brushing against his skin. In that moment, the flashing lights and chaos of that night must have replayed in his mind. The sound of tires screeching, the metallic crash, the weight of what could have been lost forever. He whispered something to the wind, unheard by anyone but the darkness around him. And then, slowly, he walked away. The question, was Wang Yibo's manager the cause of the accident, may never have a simple answer. Perhaps it wasn't malice, but the deadly combination of exhaustion, ambition, and human error. Perhaps it was a warning to an entire industry that sometimes chasing perfection comes at too high a cost. What remains undeniable is the resilience of Wang Yibo. From the wreckage and rumors, he rose once more, stronger, wiser, and more grounded than ever. The accident may have scarred him, but it also revealed something deeper, the strength of a man who refuses to be broken by fate. And though the world still whispers, wondering what truly happened that night, one thing shines brighter than ever: Wang Yibo's unshakable spirit. The city lights glimmered faintly on the rain-soaked pavement, reflecting a haunting glow that seemed to mirror the chaos in Wang Yibo's world. The accident had left not only scars on his body but deeper ones, those that hid behind his calm eyes whenever someone mentioned that night. But what few knew was that the real story behind the crash had layers. Layers so shocking that even those closest to Yibo could hardly believe it. In the weeks that followed, the whispers grew louder. Fans, journalists, and industry insiders began piecing together fragments of a truth buried under silence and fear. The official report had called it negligence, but to those who had seen the days leading up to the crash, something darker seemed to lurk beneath. It all began a few days before the accident, during the filming of a high-budget drama in which Yibo played the lead role. The schedule was brutal. He barely slept, moving from rehearsals to shoots, then interviews, then meetings. The world saw a flawless performer, elegant, confident, unstoppable. But behind that perfection was exhaustion so deep that even caffeine and adrenaline couldn't mask it anymore. Chen Rui, his manager, had become desperate to maintain Yibo's public image. Sponsorship contracts, endorsement deals, and international schedules piled up. She was praised in the company as the woman who never sleeps, the one who kept the golden boy on top. But people close to the crew noticed something. Her composure was slipping. Chen had been shouting at everyone that week, a staff member later revealed. She was under so much pressure. Yibo wanted to rest, but she said no. There was a meeting with investors he couldn't miss. She said, "He's tired, but fame doesn't wait." Those words would echo painfully after the crash. On the day of the accident, Yibo was visibly drained. A soft drizzle had begun to fall as they wrapped filming around midnight. The crew offered to book him a hotel nearby to rest before traveling back. But Chen insisted on leaving immediately. "Let's go," she said, voice sharp, as she gathered his things. "You can sleep in the car." Yibo hesitated. "It's raining, Chen. Let's stay the night." "We can't," she snapped. "We have a photo shoot early morning. If we're late, it'll cost us millions." That was the argument, the one witnesses later recalled. The tension had been thick, their words low but cutting. Eventually, Yibo sighed, surrendering as he always did. He trusted her, even when it hurt to keep going. The decision sealed their fate. As the SUV sped down the empty highway, the rain intensified. Raindrops raced each other down the glass while the rhythmic wipers struggled to keep up. Yibo leaned his head against the window, eyes half shut, lost between wake and dream. Chen sat in the passenger seat, scrolling through her phone, responding to messages from producers and event organizers. But then, something happened. She received a call that would ignite the disaster. "Where are you?" A voice barked from the other end. It was a senior executive from the company. "The photo shoot team is waiting. You can't be late." "I told you. We're on our way," Chen replied tightly. "You're always on your way, Chen. Do you know how much this delay costs us? You're slipping. If Yibo's not there in 30 minutes, I'll have to rethink your position." The call ended abruptly, leaving Chen's hands trembling. Fear, pride, and anger surged within her like wildfire. She turned to the driver, voice cold and commanding. "Step on it. We can't be late." The driver looked uneasy. "The roads are." "I said drive faster." Yibo stirred in the back seat, rubbing his eyes. "What's happening?" "Nothing," Chen said, forcing a smile. "Go back to sleep." But he didn't. He could feel the tension, the danger. His instinct screamed something wasn't right. The road curved sharply ahead. A warning sign glared through the mist. But in their haste, no one saw it. Then came the screech of tires, the deafening impact, the world spinning into darkness. Hours later, the scene of the crash was like something out of a nightmare. Flashing red lights painted the tunnel in shades of horror. Police reports confirmed the SUV had been going 30 kilometers over the safe limit for wet conditions. Inside the wreckage, Yibo was conscious but dazed. His leg throbbed, blood trickling down his cheek. He called out for Chen, voice trembling. "Chen! Chen, wake up!" She was slumped forward, barely breathing. The driver was unconscious. Smoke filled the air as emergency teams cut through the mangled metal to pull them free. When Yibo was finally lifted onto a stretcher, he whispered faintly, "It wasn't supposed to be like this." Those words haunted the rescue team for days. In the aftermath, as Yibo recovered in the hospital, silence reigned. The entertainment company tried to bury the story, releasing carefully worded statements about road conditions and bad weather. But truth is a way of clawing its way to light. Footage from highway cameras leaked. Journalists uncovered messages between Chen and her superiors, showing she had been under immense pressure to deliver a ball on schedule, no matter what. And then came the shocking audio recording from the car's black box. Chen's voice shouting at the driver to speed up, ignoring his repeated warnings. That one recording shattered the illusion. Fans who once adored her now turned in disbelief. The woman known for protecting Wang Yibo had pushed him into danger. A press conference was held days later. The company's spokesperson tried to shift blame, but the truth was unstoppable. When Wang Yibo appeared publicly for the first time after the accident, the atmosphere was electric, emotional, raw. He walked slowly to the podium, a bandage still on his leg, eyes filled with quiet strength. Cameras flashed, reporters whispered, but when he began to speak, the world went silent. People think fame is about shining lights and red carpets, he said softly. But behind it, there's pressure, exhaustion, and people who forget that we're human too. I don't blame anyone, but I want this to be a reminder that no dream is worth a life.